welcome to Two Blokes Chat Buddhism. This is episode 3. Is that right?
I don't know.
Episode 3 or 4? It'll say in the title.
It's a new episode.
It's the new episode.
Brand new. This week I was going to talk about why Buddhism is not a religion, but then when I thought about it, it seemed more and more like a religion as well. But it has a lot of aspects that make it kind of a philosophy, right? So, I mean, it has both aspects of philosophy and religion, right? But I think in this episode, we'll try to focus on the aspects of Buddhism that are similar to philosophy in the West.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm keen.
Yeah, cool. Again, I think the main thing about Buddhism is that you would know this. So there's a word called Dhamma or Dharma, right?
Yeah.
So this means the teachings or the truth, right? That truth can be found by anyone, right? It can be realized by anyone. And it wasn't discovered by this one person, it wasn't like some revelation came from some supernatural being, right? So meaning that the Buddha is not a prophet in that sense, right? He wasn't this like special person kind of thing, that only he has access to this special knowledge. Anyone can go access this knowledge.
Okay. Well, you said it was like it wasn't a revelation, but it's attributed to this guy anyway.
Yeah, because so with Buddha, so the historical Buddha we think of, right? So that what we've talked about previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
He's a person who's attained enlightenment and chose to teach it to others, right? And there's in early Buddhism, there's another type of Buddha called Pacceka Buddha, which means a Buddha who is a Buddha as well. Like he's attained enlightenment. He's sort of understood the truth, right? And they've attained Nibbana and enlightenment, but they don't teach it to others, or they don't have the ability or the capacity to teach others. And there's been lots of Pacceka Buddhas you just don't know because they never taught people and didn't start this whole organization around it, right? Yeah. So it's Pacceka Buddhas. They're like, I guess, in terms of a hierarchy, if you're placing them in a hierarchy, it would be a Buddha and then a Pacceka Buddha. Only difference is that the Buddha can actually teach others and make other people understand. What I'm saying is that lots of people can attain that level, the level of the Buddha himself, right? But the Buddha is kind of this huge figure because of the fact that he sort of taught the teachings to others.
Okay, and he was kind of like the first guy to start an organization or school of thought around it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at sort of early teachings of Buddhism, not even early, like maybe later, I'm not sure. There's the Buddha, like this Buddha is the 28th Buddha.
The historical Buddha?
Yeah, the historical Buddha we're talking about
right.
is like the 28th. In terms of like the Buddhist understanding of it, it's like the 28th. So he's called Gautama Buddha because that's his name, like just the name of the person who became the Buddha. And there's so many, all these names of these 28 people, right? I think obviously that's hard to grasp and like might not be true, So I think a good way to think about that, and how I think about it is that how Seneca puts it, right? So in Seneca's letters, in like Stoic philosophy, he has this idea of this wise man, right? And this ideal wise man, and he says it's so rare that he might appear every 500 years or so, right? Meaning that getting to that level of understanding is a rare feat, and not everyone's going to achieve that. So there's going to be these really wise men that appear every 100 years, 500 years or so, right? I think that's what we can sort of take from that. We don't need to I don't worry too much about 28 Buddhas and all that. I just think that, okay, this is a rare occurrence where someone kind of attain enlightenment or some understanding, and that doesn't happen very often, right? Okay, so the difference between a Buddha and an Arahant. So Arahant is a person who's achieved Nibbana, and the Buddha, we call it Samma Sambuddha, which means the Buddha has found out the truth by himself, by his own efforts. Whereas an Arahant listened to the teachings of a previous Buddha, right? And used that knowledge to sort of attain enlightenment himself. That's kind of the distinction between the two, right?
Okay. How do you say the Arahant?
Arahant. So that's ARAHANT.
H-A-N. Okay, Arahant.
Arahant, yeah.
Okay.
And that's sort of the final level on the path. When you progress, there's different stages. We'll probably touch on that on a different episode, but the final stage is Arahant, right?
Right.
Arahant is like you're fully liberated. There's no more, like you've attained it, but there's nothing more to do. But the Buddha is different because he's an Arahant, but he's also a Samma Sambuddha, which means he's attained Arahantship using his own efforts.
Right.
I don't know if I'm confusing you now.
No, that makes sense. But like so Buddhas wouldn't be very common if it's like you have to be a gun or a really just enlightened person to achieve it by yourself.
Yeah, and that's why it's
Right?
so
Like
rare.
most people would just learn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That's why it's so rare. And then once a Buddha comes and preaches or like teaches his findings, that's when you get a lot of like other people attaining arahanthood and stuff, because they can sort of listen to them and they don't need to put in all the effort trying to figure out everything from scratch, right? It's kind of what science has done for us, right? Like science over the years is like built up on previous knowledge, and that's why we are here, right? As like a society, that we're so good with computers and all that's based off the previous knowledge, and we just built on that, top of that for like thousands and thousands of years, that we got so much knowledge now. Like going from A to B is not an issue now, but going from A to B 10,000 years ago was difficult. Like we had to plan, like the wheel, before the wheel, like imagine trying to get to places, like, or just travel, moving things.
Yeah, so we're making that progression mentally.
Yeah,
with Buddhism.
Yeah,
right.
I think. But the point is, he's not a prophet. Anyone can sort of obtain that, right? And you kind of obtain that through personal experience, right? It's not like a supernatural being coming in and sort of giving you that knowledge. It's not a god or anything like that. And these insights are, they come through personal experience, right? So they're not handed to you by some supernatural being or anything, right? And these insights aren't mystical either. Some of them are just because of the time period of ancient India, but most of them aren't. So they're pretty reasonable. Like it's, the character of the mind, why we kind of desire stuff, why we suffer when we don't get things we desire. It's very all rational. You can kind of understand and grasp most of these things. Like they're very reasonable things. And most of them now are being backed up by, scientific and sort of psychological investigation as well. So it's pretty quote unquote normal, right? It's nothing mystical about it.
Yeah.
At least from this point of view.
That's interesting. I want to come back to that scientific point, but like linking it back to the theme of the episode, I guess, because it's not mystical, there's no divine intervention of knowledge gaining or anything. It's all just human centric and human derived.
Yeah.
That's where it's like, oh, that's not religionly at all. That's not like a religion to me.
Yeah. I mean, what we should have done is define what religion is at the start, but obviously that's
it's pretty loose.
yeah. So it's very, you're right. It's very loose. But when I think of it, I think of that, right? Like the supernatural thing that's outside of the human experience. And it's not the case in Buddhism. It's all very, at least in early Buddhism, the one we're focusing on, that's not the case. It's all personal experience. Meditation is just observing your human nature and then trying to figure out trying to question everything that happens inside you, and that might bring you to insights, right, where you can progress up the path, right? And the Buddha was always characterized as like a normal human being, right? Like I think we talked about it before. He was just a normal dude, like. So it's nothing, he's not a son of God or anything. He's just a normal guy. It's one of the main kind of things that make it seem like it's just nothing really mystical or religious about it.
Yeah, it's definitely very empowering to be like, anybody can do it, man. And that's like, because philosophies, even like modern day, I don't know, motivational speakers, right? They'll just say, you could do it. Everyone can achieve their dreams, sort of thing. Like that's maybe a philosophy to me. Like,
yeah, right, yeah.
So I'm seeing some links there, but
yeah, fair. I mean, yeah, and
silly comparison.
Buddha's pretty famous for saying, I think in one of his early discourses, I think he says that, question everything, like don't believe what I'm saying. Go sort of explore it yourself, try it out yourself and see if it works for you. And then if it does, accept it. If it doesn't, disregard it. So he's being very open to that sort of curiosity in people and not trying to like, you don't need to have blind faith in Buddhism or his teachings to follow it. I was listening to this guy talk about him going to this temple and everyone's eating and this one lady wasn't eating, right? So he's like, okay, what's going on? Why aren't you eating? Are you okay? And she's like, oh, I'm fasting for Ramadan, right? So she's a Muslim in a temple, in a Buddhist temple, learning the teachings. And it's just pointing to the fact that you don't have to be a quote unquote Buddhist to follow these things, right? It's just principle. It's like you would read any kind of philosophy. Like I read Seneca all the time and then applying that to your life. I don't need to be a stoic, like in the classical sense to do that.
For sure, yeah. And I guess philosophies are kind of modular. You can build your own philosophy with teachings of different philosophies, right? Like you can take stuff from Stoicism, take stuff from Buddhism, take stuff from, what else is there? Romanticism?
Yeah. Pick and choose, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, because most of them have a lot of overlap as well. Because if you think about it, like the truth is going to be the same. Like you can arrive at that from different points, different angles. And I don't know if there's a fundamental truth, if there's one single thing. But if there is, if it's fundamental, like there's going to be only that, right? It's not going to be other things. So they're all going to arrive at the same thing. But obviously we don't know. But most of these like Stoicism and Buddhism, all of these have really close overlapping concepts. We might actually touch on that later on as well, sort of comparing these Western philosophies with Buddhism. And we can also draw parallels to like Plato's Academy and Aristotle's Lyceum, right? Because the Buddha sort of created this monastic order, right? It kind of seems like a religious thing as well, because it seems like a missionary kind of thing, because he did kind of make them kind of go out, like he dispersed them around the region to go spread the word kind of thing. So that seems very missionary Christian thing, but also you can kind of draw parallels to, those schools of thought in ancient Greece, right? Plato's Academy, the Lyceum, all of that. Obviously, with time, all of those orders have developed into religion, but it was at the same time as well, right? Like similar time period where the Greek. Was it? Yeah, he was in the 5th century BC, same as the Buddha. So
okay,
there could be thoughts like ideas traveling through Silk Road to India at the time, going either way, And I think there are actual. I need to do more research. We'll talk about it in a different episode. I don't want to talk about things I don't know, but like people knew about Buddhism or like religions in India in Greek people knew about religions in India. So and the other way around actually. I've seen Chinese. Actually, that might be Roman, but I've seen Chinese drawings from like court drawings at the time where visitors from Rome and stuff, like the Romans would come down to China with gifts and stuff.
But yeah, damn. Well, there might be like a language barrier, but I'm sure some of the minds would sit down and have a chat, exchange some ideas. Like,
yeah, for sure.
There definitely would be, crossovers.
Yeah. I mean, later down through the time, like there were Roman kings and stuff who were Buddhist.
Whoa.
Like documented, like well known, because the Romans obviously came down like to the African continent, came down through towards Middle East, and Buddhism also sort of intersected over that area. There's a lot of Roman kings, even in the Buddhist scriptures about Roman kings. I think a famous one called Milinda's Questions, which is, I think, a King Milinda is asking this Buddhist monk all these questions about sort of metaphysical questions about Buddhism, and he's answering them. It's very well documented. And also, even like from archaeological point of view, you see coins and stuff that they've unearthed over the area of Gandhara. I think it's like towards Afghanistan. It's coins with like Dharma Chakra, which is like, it's like a wheel, the wheel of Dharma, and all this stuff that was in a Roman kind of kingdom. It's super interesting. I've seen Seneca talk about, he's like, he doesn't like it, but he's talking about all these influences from the East, and he's talking about people jumping on new trends around new religions and philosophies. But I've seen that in some of his letters, it could be, all of this stuff coming through from the East to the West. So it's interesting though.
Whoa. Yeah, like these fancy trends, they'll never catch on.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure he would have been like way more zen about it, but that's cool.
No, Seneca's pretty full on. Like he's a very conflicting character. Very conflicting. And that's what's good about him, just because as humans we are conflicting. There's no there's no one thing that we do. We always flip from thing to thing. So I don't know how we got into talking about Seneca. This is meant to be a Buddhist podcast.
You'll always bring it back to Seneca.
I don't know. I've been reading it. I haven't read Seneca in a while actually, but yeah.
Well, cool. Well,
cool.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode. Yeah. Whichever number that is.
Mm-hmm. See you in the next one.
See ya.